So you had messaged us regarding a Roddy, correct?
Yes, Jelly Bean is his name.
That's the second Roddy that I know of whose name is Jelly Bean.
Really?
Yes.
I wonder if it's because like the adoption agency actually named him, and I just couldn't think of anything else.
Oh, really?
He's a very jealous dog, so Jelly kind of works with him.
Sure. How much does he weigh?
He's about, I think he's like 100 pounds now. When we adopted him, he was like really, really skinny.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 85 then. I haven't been able to like bring him on a scale since. But
Sure.
he's gained a lot of muscle back. He's like rock solid muscle now.
The last Roddy I trained was 150 pounds.
Oh, that's a big boy.
He was a king rat, so they get very large. And if I remember correctly, he had done previous training, and he was doing well, and then like the quarantine hit, and then you started to see these behaviors. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's like a lot of strange people outside with masks, a lot of people outside in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like he was progressing towards a good place. But now I feel like, and I don't know if it's like change in schedule because now I'm home all the time. But it's like he's definitely one, and I guess he's always been that way, but he's gotten a little bit better. But like when he snaps into like, it's just a behavior like you can't calm him down. Like it's really, it's like a switch in his head. Like you flip it up, and he's like wah, and then he like, you know, trying to calm him down, you can't. And then you can once he gets like, oh, like, but it's been really kind of difficult,
Sure.
especially in certain situations that it's like, you know, like I think I'd mentioned my friend came over the other day and Jelly Bean like jumped up on him, was really nice for like 10 seconds. And then he's like, okay, now I'm going to bite you. And he bit him. And like trying to me calm him down, he like starts, you know, biting me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't break the skin, but yeah, he's kind of just aggressive. But he has other behaviors like, you know, like my husband will try to take him out, for example, and then he'll like Jelly Bean will start biting me. He'll come over like biting me, like it's almost like you're gonna leave me or something, right? And he's like biting me. So I, you know, and it's really hard to control too at times. There's sometimes where I can just be like down and he's down, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's also times where like he gets like the zoomies or maddies that he's kind of like, it's insanely crazy. Like I just I hide from him, honestly. Because he comes up and bites me and then he runs away. Then he bites me and comes, and he does a lot of play biting, but like I don't try to encourage him in any way. But it's just times when he's like, you know, I think it's more an anxiety part when he bites me because he's literally just biting me. Or like there'll be just random, like I'll like shut the door and he'll like come and bite me. I'm just like, why?
Sure. So the bite on the friend, how bad was
it? There's blood.
Was there punctures? Was it just broken skin?
Like puncture the skin, I guess. Blood. It was enough to need a Band-Aid.
Okay, all right, but not like stitches or need to go to the doctor or anything like that. Okay. So friend knocks on the door or rings the doorbell.
Oh, he's in my backyard, actually.
Okay, so backyard. So he comes in the backyard. You're out there with Jelly?
No, I was outside already, and then he wanted to say hi to Jelly. And maybe it was probably a bad idea, but I let him out to say hi. And
okay, so you were already out, both you and your friend. He wanted to see your dog, and you open the door. Jelly goes, jumps on him, friendly, 10 seconds, and then decides to bite. I'm assuming your friend's energy was like, hey, buddy, like high pitched stuff.
Not even, like he just kind of like stood there because he loves dogs, he understands dogs.
Okay.
So he just kind of stood there and didn't really move, honestly.
Sure. So Jelly goes, jumps up, puts his paws on him. And then where was the bite?
Ended up being his finger because he like, you know, when he starts biting, like you could tell he like that switch hit on. Sure. And he tried to like block it, he got his finger.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how was the situation de-escalated?
So I tried to grab him and pull him back, but he's so strong, right? So I'm pulling and he's like biting me to, because he wants to bite him further. So I'm trying to hold him as much as possible, but he I mean, literally so strong. So I had my husband come out and grab some treats, and that kind of knocked him out.
Okay, so he was able to redirect him with food.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yes, it was just that time of like not having any food.
I'm assuming he's met other people before, like in the home, in the yard. You ever notice any tension prior?
So we've had like only one other person come over, like our old dog sitter, and like he was not happy. He did not like it. He calmed down after a while, but like at the first, it was like not good.
So it took time before he accepted.
Yeah, her for sure.
But
she was really scared though. Yeah, he calmed down, and then she gave him a belly rub and stuff.
Was that within the first time of meeting him?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But like my brothers come over and my nephew, and Jelly like accepted them right away.
When did he meet them? How old was he?
That was back in like over Christmas, so wasn't.
How long have you had Jelly for?
Since October.
So 2 months after you got him. Did he meet anybody during that time frame of October, November?
Yeah, so like we have a dog walker, a couple dog walkers actually. One I don't think actually there was 3, but one didn't work out. And they were fine with Jelly Bean, but Jelly Bean was also created when they come to meet him.
And then no tension there.
Not that I ever heard.
Okay. Which, I mean, that's a good answer. Right thing. Okay. So I'm trying to get a feel for Jelly here. So the positives are that, like with the dog sitter, where he's like, oh, he was not happy, right? But within that first meeting, she was rubbing his belly, and I'm assuming cared for him, right?
She's like, I honestly too afraid.
Oh, okay. But so she did end up working with him, but he did warm up to her within that session.
Correct.
Okay. And we are in June, so October, November, December, January, March, April, June. So with dogs or puppies, with puppies, whenever they have behavior issues, like when they develop them, typically it's around 6 months to a year. And what I've noticed is that, like, let's say the puppy becomes aggressive towards humans, right? Is that anybody that puppy met before that change is fine. When it comes to adopted dogs, it's similar. It's typically a smaller window, though. It's typically a 2-week to 1 month window, where that anybody or any dog that they meet within that time frame is fine. And then after that, when they decide to kind of display their true colors, they become more selective. That's why I was asking when you got him, when he met your family, and then of course this person, because I'm trying to figure out the timeline, right?
Right.
With his behavior, so that's in the home. Now outside, I think you had described some like reactivity stuff.
Yeah, he was trying to go to daycare, for example, but then they put him in this holding area, and so they first thought, they were like, oh, well, we thought at first it was the black guy, and then we thought it was the tall guy, and then we thought it was this, but it was always when they put him in this holding area, and they're like, well, then he just doesn't like anybody. That's what they decided. I was like, okay, so we wasn't allowed to go to the daycare, and they suggested going to some behavior classes. Outside, it was typically, I think it was less reactive at first, but because it was more about he was trying to find everything to eat in the world on the ground. So I had to get him one of those harnesses that go over his face to just yeah, it wasn't a gentle lead, but it was something else. But it was just something to prevent him from eating everything and something that would hurt him, because like he ate a sock one day. I mean, he ate the whole thing that was on the ground. Did he pass? No, he threw it out a few days later. Yeah, luckily I think he has a mega stomach or something. But so there wasn't a lot of reactive, and then and I didn't know if it was like he was more shy still too, because it, you know, being adopted and being almost starved to death. He didn't seem like he had a lot of issues towards like dogs or people. But now I think I feel like he's grown more, and that's where like I feel like it's kind of heightened too around just all these people being outside with masks and stuff like that as well. Yeah. But we had gone to like what they call like charm school, because it was like urban pooch, and I felt like it was everything he was doing in obedience class, honestly. So they were like, wow, he's such a great dog and he's doing really well. And I'm like, yeah, but this is like easier stuff. A lot of it, like where he was reacting towards people, were runners. And he's actually gotten a little bit better now because there's been so many runners out. Sure. I've been able to like control him, just give him treats as we pass, and he's been a little bit better. But like skateboarders and people, like, I don't think you'll ever like skateboarders or rollerbladers or whatever. Those seem to be like, and they're always, now they're, you know, all the time out because just people being at home with their kids. And so try to walk as much as possible when those things aren't around, or they're less, but I mean, it's unavoidable in the evening. So
what's your when you walk Jelly, like, are your stress levels up? Relaxed?
No, there's certain times when it's definitely much higher. So like in the morning, for example, it's I think when you first go outside, yes, because typically like, what I've been doing like this week, for example, is trying to run him every morning, just to help kind of, I don't know, hoping it will help with anxiety. But he's been like, you can tell like throughout he's like really high energy, and it depends. I almost feel like sometimes when he's like grumpy, he wakes up grumpy, as if that makes sense. Like sometimes he's worse and other days he's better. But then, you know, when he's really heightened, I feel like throughout the run he kind of calms down. But then there are walks, like, you know, at lunchtime, for example, I just feel like the more people are out, the more he's like stressed about it. Sure. So it's been really hard. But I feel like when he's had good walks, he always wants a belly rub when we're done, if that makes sense.
Okay. So sure, a little ritual.
Yeah.
So before reaching out, did you do any research and read up on me and like watching them about and stuff?
I did, because I was looking for somebody that would help with dog aggression. Sure. And your name came up. So, you know, you start to look, and honestly, the one thing I didn't like about urban pooch is like, I feel like they're like, oh, just go to class, you'll be fine. And I was like, well, that's not really helping me. So I was looking for someone that's actually going to maybe tailor towards what he needs versus like group setting class. Or honestly, I didn't find a lot of good feedback around just trainers that seemed like they were working with aggressive dogs. Especially I was looking for somebody that's worked with Rottweilers as well. So someone that understands their behavior. And I felt like you had at least all the check marks that I was looking for.
Okay. Yeah, they're not common in the city. And there's some good things. So I'm very transparent, and I'm not just gonna hopefully not overload you with information, but kind of let you know what's realistic. Things that would kind of catch my attention, just knowing how dogs are and, you know, just humans and stuff like that. Is what you're describing to me, the reactivity stuff seems to be overstimulation. Okay. Especially because, so when dogs are dog reactive towards humans, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's not that common. It doesn't mean that they're aggressive though, okay? Almost all the time when a dog is human reactive, it's because their brain is so stimulated and they're so like in this high state of arousal.
Yeah.
When you said runners moving by, and that he's gotten better with it, is because that for me is the kind of the giveaway of like, yeah, this sounds like overstimulation, not an aggression issue. Okay.
Okay.
The skateboarders and rollerbladers thing is not that uncommon.
Okay.
And I'm not actually really worried about those things. Okay. Dog reactivity is a little bit different. I'm not saying it can't be addressed. It's just that that would typically on the spectrum of reactivity towards humans, whether it be a runner, a construction worker, a skateboarder, is the very tip of it. So this is usually the first thing that goes away.
Okay.
When I deal with dogs, this is usually the first thing that goes away. And then it's high energy dogs. And then it's calm dogs, right? That's usually the easiest stuff. And then the harder stuff is typically excited dogs, other reactive dogs, or when you turn and then there's just a dog, right? Where it's like that. That's end of spectrum, okay? And that's typically how they progress when I'm dealing with reactivity. If I have a dog that's just all across the board, that's usually just how it works out, okay?
Okay.
So the reactivity stuff, I'm not worried about. The tension in the home, it's hard to say because if you had them for years, right? Let's say you had them for 4 years, and you're like, yeah, like this started happening. Like I'm like, oh, okay, like this is like not a fluke, but I wouldn't be too worried because you had 4 years where the dog was perfectly fine, and all of a sudden it's like now there's an issue, right?
Right.
But in your case, it's kind of off because I can't figure out the timeline. But the positive is with the dog sitter, he did warm up to her. He did let your family in. But when it came to your friend, the variable there is that it sounds like he was kind of taken off guard. He goes in the yard and then there's man, as opposed to the process of like knocking, opening the door, seeing the person come in, right?
Yeah.
So like it kind of comes like he ran up to him, jumped up, right? Kind of like what's going on here, and then the switch just happened, right?
Yeah.
But then when you said your husband was able to redirect him with food, is if there was clear intent, that wouldn't have happened.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
If a dog is too stressed about something in terms of fear, anxiety, and nervousness, it's like, screw your food, I'm stressed out, right?
Right.
If it's like, I want to get this person, like I want to just annihilate them, it's the same thing. It's like, that doesn't matter right now because this is serious business, okay?
Right.
So that's why I was like, all right, it kind of sounds like it was just, I'm not saying you did anything wrong, but the entry of the person and stuff was mishandled.
Okay.
And he didn't know what to do, whether or not to go into territorial mode or not, because he's a Roddy, right? He's supposed like he's meant to be territorial, protective.
Yeah.
So that one's kind of what makes things tricky is that he's a 100-pound dog, okay, and he can overpower you. He can overpower your husband, and if things go south. Things can go south very quickly when you got that big of a dog.
Yes, I've noticed.
Yes. So what I would do is, in terms of are these all the issues that you have with Jelly Bean for the most part?
Yeah, other than that, he's a great dog. Like I said, he's
No tension with you or your husband? No? Okay.
I mean, he plays rough sometimes with his sibling. She's another little Roddy.
Okay.
But she's only 50 pounds, so she kind of just hides mostly.
And before I forget, like the mouthiness that you were mentioning about, like, what would you say when your husband left or something, like he'd come and like bite you or
biting me? Yeah.
That also sounds like overstimulation and frustration.
Okay.
Okay, so frustration for a dog, like let's say for example, excitement, they get so excited, right, that it has to go somewhere. And it's
Okay.
not uncommon that they do mouthing. Okay.
Okay.
So a dog releases or expresses emotion, if you will, through their mouths. Licking, chewing, barking, biting, nipping, it's all mouth related. So if a dog is anxious, like you'll see them like licking their paws a lot, they'll salivate, like they'll pant a lot, right? Overstimulation or frustration tends to be chewing or mouthing. Okay. So that stuff, again, I'm not worried about that stuff. Okay.
It hurts. But yeah, okay.
He's a 100-pound dog, right?
Right.
But yeah, like he's biting, but it's not aggressive biting, right? It hurts because you're a human and you don't have fur, right?
Right.
But if the intention was to do harm, like this would be a very different conversation, or like you wouldn't even have it anymore, right?
Okay.
So that's the positive. That's the good thing. Is I think that's actually going to be an easy resolution. Okay.
Okay.
Most of the stuff is easy, in my opinion. The tricky part is going to be when people come over, and should you lose control of him? Okay.
Right.
So let's say you're walking with him, you're making great progress. He's not being reactive. It's all good. You turn a corner and then there's a trigger, right? It's so sudden that you have 100 pounds of dog responding within a split moment. And you're just learning how to develop these skills. Those are the tricky parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've had that situation. So yes.
So, and then the thing with people coming in is with this whole virus thing, like I'm still trying to figure out like what's even going on with the city, because I know they're trying to open up Chicago again, but obviously like the virus hasn't disappeared, right? I before the virus hit, I had about 30 to 40 clients, private clients. Okay, that's not board and trains. That's not the dogs we do here. I had a full calendar. And then the virus hits and I go down to 0. So, and we're rebuilding that.
Yeah.
But the issue is, if I see you, right, I'm also seeing 30 to 40 other people that I'm potentially exposing all these people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
So that's the tricky part, right? There are ways to work around it. And that's why I record videos now. It's like, since it's a lot of verbal instruction and you don't have the visual anymore, it's like, well, Jesse, what is this supposed to look like? And I can go, watch this video. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So your case sounds like a standard case that I work with. It's just you have a very large dog.
Okay.
Right? That's the tricky part. It's just your dog. The stuff that you're dealing with is not out of the ordinary. I work with it on a regular basis.
Okay. It's good to hear, I guess.
Yeah, so that's the positive. It's
There's
just
hope.
big dog. It's all the problem, okay?
Right.
So for your case, from what I'm understanding and perceiving, I think he just needs structure and discipline, okay? Which is almost always the issue.
Right.
When I'm dealing with a legitimately human aggressive dog, it's a very different approach, okay? So I worked with a pitty a few years ago who was deemed human aggressive by a number of trainers, okay? I came in and I go, your dog is not human aggressive within seconds, okay? And they go, what do you mean? We've had 5 trainers that said, put him down, he's human aggressive. And I go, no, your dog is just so overstimulated that it comes out as nipping and biting, which is being misinterpreted as aggression.
Okay.
But the reason why they couldn't tell was because I have a special suit that protects me. It's a 60-pound suit. It's what they use for protection training, okay?
Yeah.
So I walked in and I gave the dog every opportunity to bite me. And I even went and I touched the dog. And the dog didn't do a thing. Okay? So the owners were able to see, like, you're right. Like, you gave him every chance and you even did stuff that nobody wants to do because they're afraid of being bit. I'm like, yeah, he didn't do anything. I'm like, your dog is just so frustrated. It's coming out and it looks aggressive, and it's being misread because they're not really understanding. We did real simple stuff with the dog. I never even touched the aggressive stuff, and it fixed the issue. Okay.
I feel like Jelly Bean would bite you through your suit.
No, maybe, right?
But maybe.
And there's a whole thing behind that. So when I put the suit on, I get cases where I walk in and I can't even get through the door without the dog attacking me.
Wow. Okay.
There's other cases where the dog will hide in the corner, and if I go to touch them, they will bite me, but they didn't come looking for it. They were staying away, right? So I know that they will bite if they're made uncomfortable, but as long as there's no conflict, the dog will leave you alone, right? So there's different ways of looking at it. And you got to think for Jelly Bean, let's say I did walk into your home and let's say he did bite me, right? Most people would perceive that as bad, right? And I look at it as he doesn't know me. I'm walking into the territory. He's doing his job. And he's saying, I don't know you, you're a threat, and I'm not going to let you hurt my family, so I'm going to bite you first.
Okay.
That's dog, okay?
Yeah.
For human, so imagine if someone knocks and you open the door and it's your friend, you're like, hi, how are you, right? But let's say that same friend, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're inside your house. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'd be okay with my dog biting him.
Very different conversation.
Yeah.
So it's all about context. So people, when a dog bites, they go, aggressive dog, put him down. And I go, why? Why did the dog bite, right? It's super rare to have a dog that will bite with the intent to do harm with no real reason, okay? Human perceive no reason because they're thinking the world is a safe place and the people that come over aren't the threat. Your dog may not think that way. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Dogs are very black and white. We live in a very community-driven, socialization-driven kind of world where we make friends and friends come over and stuff like that. In the wild, if a stray wolf wanders into another territory, kill it. Right? Fishes in a fish tank have territories, and if a fish goes in the wrong territory, they kill it. That's why when you get a fish, you have to have bottom-dwelling fish, then the mid-dwelling, and then the top-dwelling, and then you have like a fish that goes in the cave. So they don't bother anybody. They leave each other alone. That's their harmony. Okay, fish.
I didn't know that, but thank you.
Yeah, I learned this when I worked at PetSmart. And I didn't know. One of my customers came in and I was like, yeah, he's like, fishes have territories and they have to be like that different. Otherwise, they'll kill each other. I'm like, I did not know that. And there's somewhat communal, So same thing with the dog. Okay, so that's why I don't hold it against the dog.
Yeah.
Okay? And when people understand it, then they go, oh, like that makes a lot of sense. It doesn't mean that it's acceptable.
Right.
But then I tell them, that there's a way of handling it and controlling it, but I can't make the dog accept people coming in and love them.
Right.
I can't make that happen. We can get him to leave him alone and mind his business, but I can't make him like those people. Okay.
That's fair.
So I would, realistically speaking, I'm not saying that it won't, because it has happened, but I'm just saying at bare minimum, that's what I would expect. Okay. In regards to your case, the first thing I would do is teach this guy how to walk correctly. Okay. My style, which is if I take 1 step, he takes 1 step. I take 5 steps, he takes 5 steps. When I stop, he automatically sits. Okay. This with no tension in the leash. This is a slack leash. There's no food involved here. Okay. That amount of discipline should, for one, address the reactivity. Okay, that's our baseline for the reactivity stuff. And then we see how he does each week. Okay, theoretically speaking, if he's more worried about you than he's worried about the runner and the skateboarder, we're not going to see those behaviors. Okay, if that approach doesn't work, it doesn't mean he's too far gone. It just means it's going to need a different approach. So then if we do the training and he's doing everything he's supposed to, but we're still seeing reactivity towards, skateboards. Then it comes down to consequence. Okay.
Okay.
Jelly essentially gave a good description or example of what a consequence is when you catch him off guard in territory, right? He may potentially bite you or whatever it is, right? So dogs use physicality to address things they don't like or things that they don't want to happen, okay? So like, if somebody tried to walk in the front door and Jelly was up there growling at them, he's saying, you come in, I'm gonna bite you, right? If they come in, maybe he does. So he's using the bite to say, get out of my house, right? Physicality. So consequence has to be given the same way. I'm not saying to bite your dog, but we need to replicate as best we can what a bite is, okay? So if he's acting out and lunging, and you've already done the formal training and it's still an issue, then now there just needs to be a direct consequence for that behavior.
Okay.
So like for me growing up, if I talk back to my mom, if I didn't do my homework, if I didn't do my chores, I got spanked, right? It hurt, but the intention was not to hurt me. It was to teach a lesson. Do your homework, do your chores, don't talk back, right? Same thing for the dog. So people try to do things the positive way, treats and energy, right? Which is great for things that you want to see again, but it's terrible for things that you want to stop.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So they work in conjunction with each other, okay? But in the dog world, like they don't give each other treats to teach each other things. They just bite each other, okay? You're too close, get away from my food, get off my bed, leave me alone, right? Leave my yard, bite, 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 bite. That's all it is, very simple, okay? The issue that we might have is because he's a rot, he's 100 pounds, right? He's muscle. His aversive may be very harsh in order for you to teach a lesson. So the hard part is for the human. They're like, they don't want to hurt their dog, which I understand, right? It's not about hurting them, but it's about teaching a lesson. And I'm not saying that he will need one. I'm saying it's a possibility, right?
Okay.
So you can have two Rottweilers, same size and everything, and one can be very soft temperament and very like a scold, and like that's all they need. And then you can have the other one that needs a very heavy hand in order to prove a point for the same thing. Okay. I don't know yet. That's all. Jelly's the one that knows. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one part of it in terms of it's difficult because of the human. Okay. The other part, which I mentioned earlier, was that if we lose control, I teach both. I teach you want to have control so that we don't see problems, but life isn't perfect. So you can go 2 years, no problem, and then all of a sudden blow up, right? That's actually pretty good, right? Over 2 years. But then if you don't know how to control the blow up, then that's a problem, right? So it's a part of the process. I teach people how to prevent it, but then also should things go south, how to regain control again, okay? Then that's about confidence, again, on the human part. Because I've dealt with aggressive dogs for 10 years, that when I come in, I'm super chill and I'm like, whatever, and I'm doing my thing, right? And the people are like, the owner's like, oh my God. I'm like, it's okay, like this is normal, you know, for what we're dealing with. But for them, it's like the craziest thing because they don't know, they don't have that skill set yet, okay? Coming into the home, what I would suggest is you muzzle train him.
Okay.
This will help you feel a lot more relaxed, okay? Because it removes a very high percentage of the potential risk, okay? Because even though I teach you the exercises, you have to understand you're the one that's with him 99.9% of the time when I'm not around, right?
Yep.
Is that you may not see something that I would have.
Okay.
Right? So you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make errors. And, you know, let's say, you know, you try to have someone come over, he's got his muzzle on, and then you don't see something and he goes for it, you know, it's going to be bad, but not as bad as if he didn't have the muzzle.
Yeah.
It
Right.
allows you to work through it safely. Okay. Now, ideally, we don't even see these things, but if you're trying to push for Jelly Bean to accept people coming into the home and not acting out, you have to have people come into the home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's hard for the human. The dog don't care. Jelly don't care. Okay. He's just like, discipline. You don't want me to do this? Okay. Right. But the human, it's the hard part.
Okay.
And his size. Okay. So the muzzle, and then, when walking with them outside, would make you feel better as well in case you hit close encounters. It relieves a lot of stress. I'm not saying it's permanent. Okay. But while you're developing your skill set and your confidence and what you can do, at least you don't have to worry about what happens if he does get to somebody.
Right.
Okay. And then over time, if you get him to the point, or your confidence gets to the point where you're like, yeah, I can handle it, no biggie, then you don't need to use it if you don't need it. Okay. I always leave it up to the owner, because there's no right or wrong. Some people just rather have it. Okay. They just rather have it, even though they have the control, they rather have it. I get others, they'll have the dog with it on for the first 15 minutes. And then once everything's relaxed, they'll remove it and the dog's fine. And I get others that are like, they're so confident. They're like, yeah, we don't need it. We don't use it anymore. Okay. There's no right or wrong. I don't care what they do. I just want people to be happy. I want the dogs to be safe. My job is to find you an answer that's going to address all these things and keep your dog in your home.
Right.
That's how I view my job. Right. So it's a combination of answers.
Yeah, I'm not getting rid of them. So that one's where you can check the box.
So when it comes to training, my approach is e-collar. Are you familiar with e-collar?
I know a little bit about it, but I've never used one.
Have you ever been to a chiropractor or a physical therapist?
Yes.
Have you ever had stim?
Yes.
That's an e-collar.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not electricity. Okay, it's not like a taser. It's not like sticking a finger in an outlet. Okay, it's electric, but not electricity is how I explain it. So it's just a slight current that causes a muscle contraction. Okay. With humans, they put you on the machine, they bump up the levels, and they tell us when it becomes too much, right?
Yeah.
And then you say, ooh, that's too much. They lower it and they let the machine do its job. It's very similar with dog training. Okay. I don't know what Jelly's number is. So my remote goes 0 to 127. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So there's other brands that go 0 to 20 or 10. Okay. 127 and 20 are the same, but I have 107 more breaks.
Okay.
So people they think number and they think, oh, wow, you can go that much higher. I'm like, no, it's the same. It's just, I can really fine tune it. So Jelly's number could be very low. It could be very high, or it could be in the middle. Like, I don't know. Okay. And it may change according to the context. When you're walking and it's an empty environment, he could be on 35. But when he sees a skateboarder or when he sees a rollerblader, you might bump it to 65. Right? Or it may not change because he's just like doesn't care anymore. If he, for whatever reason, becomes reactive because he's in an adrenalized state, it might be 127. Right? I don't know. Jelly Bean knows. But this is why I like the tool so much, because it removes physical strength for the most part. So like I had a couple, they were like in their 60s to 70s, and they had a 120-pound German Shepherd. And I was able to train them with that dog, and the wife was super small and petite. And I was like, man, I really hope, because the dog was reactive, I was like, I really hope, the dog is easy to work with, because it's going to be hard. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Luckily, their dog was very sensitive to the e-collar. So they got the training done real quick. And the wife, the husband can control them. They were 70 years old, 67 years old, 120-pound young German Shepherd, right? But e-collar made that possible.
Right.
Prong collar, I would most likely incorporate to help give you more physical control. but it's kind of there in case you need it, not really there as a functioning part of the training. Okay. Because the e-collar, the way I look at it as the e-collar allows me to control the brain. When you control the brain, you control the body. So it doesn't matter most of the time how big, how small, person, dog, you can just get it done. But I'm thinking about, well, what happens if things go south and she turns the corner and she's going to need time to regain control? Then the prong collar comes into play. Okay. So like I have a lady, she's 90 pounds and she has a 130-pound Great Dane. And yeah, the dog's like up to her, like her rib cage. Okay.
Yeah.
And she was able to walk him because of e-collar without a need for a lot of physical strength. Because the e-collar, the contractions get bigger, they get stronger. So you can overpower your dog at the press of a button as opposed to physically. Okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So the first thing I think about is the heel. Okay. It's typically 2 classes. That's for the reactivity stuff. Okay. And that should also address the frustration or the biting that you see that he does to you. Okay.
Okay.
If it doesn't, then it's just a different approach. We have to provide consequence for the behavior directly. Okay. For people coming over, it's an exercise where you communicate to Jelly that someone is coming in because of you.
Okay.
And that he's supposed to leave them alone. But I'd also most likely cover what we call the place command, which is if you send him to like his dog bed, he's not supposed to move, period, for anything.
Okay.
Okay. So it's kind of like it prevents the problem because he's not allowed to move. So then it's like, hey, I got a Roddy, just ignore him. It'll be fine. Right. So as long as they're leaving him alone and he's in his corner minding his business, no tension. Okay. And then that's typically a class or so. The other stuff is kind of playing it by ear. So I don't really teach stuff that I don't think you need. Okay. Now, did you mention something about recall or come when called?
No. I mean, he usually comes when he calls.
Okay.
But he follows me everywhere I go, so it's probably nearly impossible to get away from him.
Sure. And we probably want to address that because that can empower a dog to be more protective.
Okay.
Because he's always with the human. So you might create space there.
And honestly, I'll be honest, because I'm worried about like when I do have to go back to work, like 6 months from now, he'll be too attached to me.
Sure. And so did you mention any whining or separation anxiety?
He does. I feel like he does have separation anxiety. Because I feel like if like, if I've left him, like left the house, go for a run or something, I come back and he's like, sometimes attacks me. I'm like, oops, my battery's gonna die.
No, you're fine.
Charger.
You need to find an outlet or?
I'll just walk. It's fine. But yeah, that's when he starts to like nip at me though. He like bites me.
Sure. Yeah. So that sounds like frustration is again. So that can be, all that stuff can be addressed. Okay. Now, a potential here. Okay. And this is very rare, but because you have such a large dog, I want you to be aware of it now rather than later.
Okay.
Is when you pulled him away from your friend in the yard and he started mouthing you, that's what we would call redirected aggression. Okay.
Okay.
So what that means is he can't get to the target, so he goes to the nearest thing. Okay. It's not uncommon. A potential here, and again, this is very rare, is that when we put discipline on a dog, formal discipline where it's not a choice anymore, where it's not an option, it's you're going to do this, we get protest behavior, and in some cases, the redirected aggression. Okay.
Okay.
So then the concern with the owner is, Jesse, are you making my dog aggressive? And I go, no. I'm like, now that we're confronting a problem, and we're making the dog do something that it's never been made to do before, it's going, no, right? I'm not going to do that. And the way dogs protest is through their mouths. Okay. So in my experience, I've had this happen to me about once a year. And always when I worked with the dog, when I gave the dog back to the owner, they didn't see anything. Okay. The only time I saw a dog actively go towards the owner was when there was already aggression between the dog towards the owner.
Okay.
And so it was already there. But I say this because, again, you have a 100-pound dog. Okay. So my suggestion would be, if you decide to go forward, is you start your muzzle training immediately, and then you do your training with the muzzle. Okay. So I assume the worst and hope for the best, right? So then I have people prepare for that. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Because when you got a dog that big, like I got bit by a Great Dane, you can see here.
Yes, I can. I can show you my bite marks.
So yeah, this was like 10 stitches. Large dog, but I knew how to handle the situation, and this still happened, right? So that's the other thing, and we give you all the information for the muzzle and all that stuff, and there's videos.
I actually have a muzzle because I couldn't trim his nails because he wanted to bite everybody when they tried, so I bought one for that.
Sure. And how is he with the muzzle?
He's fine, actually. He doesn't mind it at all. And actually, I've been able to teach him I use a little Dremel on his nails and without the muzzle now. So good. He's actually, he's pretty good for the most part.
Okay. What I would suggest is you revisit, and I'll send you just videos as additional FYI, is revisit muzzle conditioning, because.
I don't know much about, I don't know much about muzzle conditioning. I just put it on him and he was like, okay.
Sure. So muzzle conditioning is meant to make the dog feel comfortable wearing the muzzle, right? Now, I know you were able to get them comfortable, but that context is very different than the context of discipline. Okay, because there's going to be discomfort there. And that's where I'm expecting there to be some protest behavior, okay? So he could be fine with the muzzle, but then all of a sudden it's like, hey, there's an unpleasant experience. I don't like having this thing on my mouth. Then there's an issue.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it's easy. It's food, treat, put it on type of stuff. And then I would start that right away, because at least you have a head start on everything, as opposed to let's try to rush into it. Okay.
Right.
The collar that he would need for his size is the Dogtra 3500, and we'll send you this information.
Okay.
It's meant for dogs 70 pounds and over. Okay. So it's meant for his size. The cost of the collar is about $352 with tax.
Okay.
It's waterproof, 1 mile range. It's the highest powered collar they have, and they last a really long time. I've had mine for 8 years, no issues. The battery doesn't last as long, but for what I need it for, it's perfectly fine. And you can replace the battery. It's a rechargeable lithium battery. Okay.
Okay.
It's the best collar in my opinion, and I've been using them for years. Now, I've had a couple of cases in my career. Both of them were 150-pound dogs, very large breed dogs, bully breed. One was a rat, where one collar was not enough. Okay. So what that meant was we paired a second collar to one remote. So it was 2 collars going off at the same time. Okay. So it doesn't double the power. It's just now there's more muscle being contracted.
Right.
Okay. And that's 2 times in my 10-year career. But I'd say that to you now because I don't know how it's going to, I do this to anybody who's got a very large dog. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I get plenty of dogs that are over 100 pounds that we train with one collar, no biggie. Okay. But I'd rather have you walking into this knowing like just the little nuances that can happen. Okay.
Okay.
But we start off with one, we see what happens. And then we just kind of go from there. Right now, all our classes are verbal instruction, which actually has been working really well for our clients. They've been liking it a lot because they're doing everything from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas before, I would work with the dog and then give them back to you. The problem with that is that I would work through all the hard parts. So then the owner didn't, when something happened, they didn't know what to do.
Right.
Okay. So here, I'm not doing that. The owner is. So that's what builds your confidence and your skill level.
Okay.
But I'm there, I'm coaching you through it, I'm explaining everything. And that's why, we record, we put it back up so you can see. But then if you have a problem, I can send you another video from another client and I go, this is what you're trying to achieve. So it makes it very easy. Like, oh, that's the picture. Okay. Makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah.
The program is 6 classes in person. We've been meeting at Oz Park. We probably coordinate something with you because Oz Park is people everywhere. That for your
I don't know where that is either.
It's in Lincoln Park. It's by Webster and Halstead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just west of there. If we try to take you with your dog there day one, it's not going to be pleasant. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd freak out.
Yeah, so I'll think about where I can meet you. That would be, it's still enough that it's challenging, but enough, not so much that you would be overwhelmed. Okay, because then it's different if he has a muzzle on, but then if I have to step in and take him, we're not sure how he's going to react with someone just walking up and grabbing the leash, right? Which in public wouldn't look good. So, and it happens. Like, I've been doing this a long time, I'm used to it, but I try to think about the client, right? So we'll coordinate something so that this way we can build you to the point where you can go out and not worry about rollerbladers, skateboarders, strollers, and stuff like that. Okay. So that's typically 2 classes. The third class, we would, what was it? I forgot what I mentioned earlier that we would address for the third class. But it's really play it by ear. Oh, the place command. That's what it was. Okay. And then every week I'm just checking in on you. When we have our sessions, how'd it go? Jesse, it was great, big change, but we're still struggling with this. I'm like, all right, cool. Now we're going to start shifting. We're going to make a few adjustments. Here's your homework. Come back the following week. How'd it go? Jesse, even better. Now I'm only struggling with this. Okay, cool. We'll fine tune it. We'll teach more stuff, and we just kind of keep building on things. Okay. The tricky part would just be the coming into the home stuff. So I think I wouldn't worry too much about it now. When it comes to that point, we'll figure it out. Worst case scenario is, he's on the placemat, he can't move, period. But I'm trying to build for when people come over, you don't have to be like on edge, like, is he going to like this person or not?
Yeah, that would be nice.
And you're able to have them come in and you trust, like, I have control. I know how to read his body language. I can stop things, like, so on and so forth. Okay. Questions so far?
I guess the only thing about like reactive, because we do have another dog, would that change, or is it always going to be like he'd go to his place? I don't have to worry about even if my other dog was reactive.
Oh, you mean with the door?
Yeah, if my other one didn't like whoever was coming in or something.
How accepting is she with people coming in?
She's usually accepting. There's certain people though, she's like, oh, I don't like you. But she's not a big biter, for example, and she's more skittish than anything. So she'll hide. She's a little bit more like, I would say, brave with Jelly Bean, but she's not as brave as we had another dog that passed away about a year ago, and she was like very brave with him, but she's not as brave with Jelly Bean. So she kind of just little bit like more timid towards, but she does sometimes react like, I would say not so much people that have come into the house as of lately, but like, you know, she still reacts to the postal person, for example.
Gotcha. Well, the post person, like that stuff's normal.
Yeah.
Um, I'm more so concerned with coming into the home.
Okay.
You know, and you can always stop. Like if you don't like her barking at the postal person, like you can stop that. Okay. But
Well,
it's
doesn't really bother me, but yeah.
yeah, it's and every case is different. In some cases, like I'll tell like if the dog is too aggressive, I'll tell the owner, don't give this dog any times that they can perform this behavior.
Okay.
Right. But then it's kind of it's a gray area. And the dog's like, well, I can do it here. Why can't I do it here? You know? So when it comes to the second dog, if that's the only kind of trouble part, you may be able to get past that with a different approach, not needing a collar. Okay.
Okay.
How old is she?
She's 8.
She's 8. Yeah, she's older too. What kind of collar
Yeah.
is she on? Like a leash walking collar?
She says a little harness.
Little harness? Does she
She
pull?
doesn't. Mm-mm.
No.
Just kind of like does her thing.
So the only tricky part that I would foresee is that when I work with multi-dog homes, especially when one's older than the other, is that if like she's just like loosely walking and you're trying to keep your other dog under strict control,
Yeah.
you have conflicting ideas there with them, and
Okay.
the dog under control might push more because he's going, well, how come she's not in a tight heel? You know, not
Mm.
that he thinks that way, but I've noticed that when one person tries to walk one dog loosely and the other one in a strict position, it's constant work because they keep seeing the other dog do something different.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm not saying you have to have her trained, but I would see how they walk together and what your setup is, and then the extra, like, because to fix your problem, you only need that. I know for sure these few classes, and I'm kind of thinking like the rest are just tweaking things.
Right.
So I would say after we teach the healing and then the walking correctly and what it fixes, then we can worry about like walking them together and if we have to make any changes.
Okay.
And
And
you
then,
could probably even just do that halty one that you mentioned before, because it gives you more control.
okay. I guess my other question is like, because we do have a dog walker, I mean, she's not walking right now.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how would I integrate that back in?
With like you mean with the training?
Yeah, because like if I train Jelly Bean, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and then like if she's, you know, going to walk him in like hopefully soon in the future, but how would I get her to understand the training, or would she need to be part of the training?
No, so one, I've had clients in the past that taught their dog walker, and it
Okay.
transitions really well. Or I've also had it where they set up a visit between the dog walker and myself, and then I train the dog walker.
Okay.
The other thing is that even if the dog walker didn't reinforce your training, it wouldn't have an impact on his behavior when he's with you.
Okay.
Okay, because dogs learn by association. So what could possibly happen is, let's say with your dog walker, he learns like, oh, I can push things more because there's no consequence. But when I'm with mom and dad, I have to behave myself. Okay,
Right.
so it's like a kid. Like growing up, I knew with my grandma, I could get away with stuff, but not with my mom. You know, and if I was with my mom and my grandma, I knew I could get away with some stuff because grandma would override my mom.
Right.
Same exact thing with the dog. Okay. So it's not absolutely needed. The only other thing that I would find that potential concern would be, let's say he does all the training, he's great, he's doing really well, and then we try to transfer it to the dog walker, but then he doesn't respect or trust her enough to accept it. So then possibly he's like, well, who are you to tell me what to do? And I'm going to protest this. Okay. Potential. Okay. I'm not saying that that would happen, but that's how my brain thinks. Cause I don't want to say everything's going to be perfect. And then all of a sudden things go south and it's like, what the hell? So,
Right.
Other questions?
I don't think so. I mean, it sounds good. I guess, I don't know. I'm always nervous, I guess, because it is my baby, but yeah,
Sure.
it's probably normal.
Well, if you'd like, I always tell people go to my YouTube channel. And if you look up my name, Jesus San Miguel, or Maria can send you the link. Again, we're posting uncut training sessions.
Okay.
Okay. And you can see how it works. And I've even started doing videos where I'm teaching people this is how e-collar works. You know, so if there's someone in like Alaska that wants to train their dog, and they can watch the videos and actually train their dog themselves. But I'm doing it to be very transparent with people, to show them, you know, e-collar isn't the perception that people think it is.
Right.
Right. That when you see it actually, and you'll see different cases of dogs where one is lower and then the other one is much higher, and they're both pit bulls, you know, and just act as a resource to help you kind of just understand and also build confidence. Like, holy crap, like that person got it done within 45 minutes of Jesse giving instructions, right? Your case, of course, has a variable of behavior, but that's why I would build you up to real life, where it's like now we're outside and there's all these people around, because that's real life.
Right.
Okay.
I guess my other question is, like, Jelly Bean's like car sick. So if I literally put him in the car, he throws up.
Yeah. Anything to do about that?
What could I do if he's gonna attend a training?
Sure. So it's possible. So when it comes to car motion sickness, it's possible to address it via the e-collar if it's anxiety based. Okay. If it's anxiety based, if it's nervousness based, because dogs are meant to be in vehicles. Neither are humans, but we're so conditioned to it. But if it's legitimately motion sickness due to like an imbalance of the ear fluid or whatever that causes it, that's something totally different. Okay. I've had dogs that get car sick because of they're so anxiety ridden, and then we do e-collar stuff, and then we do a few exercises, and the dog is fine. They're still a bit anxious, but they're not puking. And then I had one case where the dog had motion sickness, and they asked me if it could be trained out of them, and in that particular case it couldn't, so they ended up medicating the dog, which he would just sleep, but then he wouldn't throw up, and I said that's fine, like it solved the problem. So
I wonder if it's anxiety, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, because he has a hard time even getting in the car.
Yeah, so that tells me if he doesn't like going in the car, or if there's some resistance there, that it's an unpleasant thing to him to a degree, which is like the precursor. Because then he's in the car and he's like, I don't want to be in here, right? And then that creates stress. And even people, like if you're too stressed out, a person's too stressed out, they gag and they make vomiting, or may vomit. So it's possible.
Okay.
Other questions?
No, actually, everything sounds good.
Is your husband going to be taking part as well?
He would, yes.
Okay.
I think some of the things you've mentioned, though, I think he, like Jelly Bean definitely, like Jelly Bean listens to me. My husband, not so much. And sometimes I feel like he does it because he doesn't want to. Like Jelly Bean doesn't want to listen to him at all.
Who's done the most training with him?
I have.
That's probably why.
Yeah, but
so when it comes to training, even like e-collar, if you do all the training, like 80%, and your husband does 20%, the dog's gonna listen to you. So like I've even had couples where it's like that, and like the husband will say something, and if the wife does all the training, the dog will go to the wife and do it, but for the wife.
Right.
Okay. So that's not uncommon. And then like with food-based training, if nothing ever said, if you don't do this, this is going to happen in response, like the dog will ignore anybody. So when food is great for puppies, but when it comes to realistic or reliable training, it's more often than not, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
It's not working well. Okay. So I guess like what are next steps then? So it sounds like you're going to send me some information.
Yeah, Maria will get in
And then,
contact with you. She'll send you a
okay.
training form, and then work with coordinating with you. I'll talk to her to let her know that we're gonna have to make. So the reason why we're doing Oz Park is because since I'm at the facility trying to keep things going and cut on
Mm,
expenses, it limits how much I can actually leave now. So if I
yeah.
can get a bunch of people to meet me at one place, I can see more in a day than if I travel to everybody. But your case, you need to work elsewhere where it's quieter, because otherwise it'll be problematic. Where are you located again?
Andersonville.
Oh, okay, so you're like northeast of me. You're like because I'm in Logan Square.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it really just be Oz Park is just a trip down Lakeshore, and then you go west a little bit. Another potential would be we can still meet there, but during the weekday, because it's not as populated during the week. It's very different from Saturday and Sunday during the week, where we'll still have plenty of space to work, have distractions, but not to the point where it'd be overwhelming.
Right.
Okay. So I'll think about it and see what I can figure out, so that this way the first class, maybe two, will meet somewhere calmer and then work you up to a more realistic setting.
Okay. And then like, I guess like because of COVID, like when are you going to potentially start training?
Whenever my availability is for so I have clients now.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we're training. I'm just not going in the home.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah,
makes
so
sense.
yeah, meeting people at the park allows for them to come. We can social distance, and I can give them instructions. And if you go and watch the videos, you'll see like it's me just talking for an hour, But they're doing stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm like coaching and explaining things and giving examples and stuff like that. So
Okay.
okay,
Okay. I can do that.
anything else?
Nope. Great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So I'll talk to Maria and I'll get all the info to you. At the latest, you'll probably hear from her tomorrow.
That's fine.
Just get in touch. Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. If you need anything else, you let us know.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.